there, this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. I am your host, Neena Perez, and we are here to discuss life topics to challenge and transform your thinking. Let's do this. Today, I have Clifford Starks here, okay? And he is a personal trainer, retired professional fighter. He's a coach, and he believes in helping other people live happier and more fulfilled lives by working on their mind, their body, and their spirit. And so we're going to speak to Clifford because he has a lot to share with us, and I cannot wait to get into it. I am really happy you're here with me, Cliff. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, Neena. I appreciate it.
I'm really glad you're here. I'm glad you took the time to be here. The first thing I like to do with all of my guests is I do a very quick intro because I want people to really hear from you who you are. And so if you don't mind, I'd like you to just give us whatever you want to give us about who Clifford is.
Yeah, so no sugar added. I am a guy who has dealt with difficulty, who has dealt with adversity, and used that as strength. You know, finding a way to go into the pain and become something different and special. And I want to give that opportunity to everybody. Let them know that pain can be a good thing if used correctly.
Well, that's good. So, we're going to dig into adversity, right? Because
Yes.
You didn't just mention that. I'm going to let it go.
Yeah, so. No sugar added. Let's go.
Right. That's right. So let's talk about that. I mean, when you say you've been through some difficulty and adversity in your life, what does that look like? What does that past look like for you?
Yeah, so I actually did some unpacking after my fighting career and really understood like what made Clifford, because there's a process to what makes us who we are.
That's right.
And how we show up. And it was when I was 4, 5, and 6, these really define a big piece of who I am. So when I was 4, my biological dad drove away. I'll never forget that moment. I remember saying to myself, people who are supposed to be there can leave in your life. They can just leave like that. And so I focused on getting really, really strong through my process, like get as strong as I can, just so if anyone were to leave, I would be able to handle myself. Yeah. When I was 5, this was a weird moment for me because I was very, very aware at a young age. And I remember being in the hospital. I didn't know why I was there. I knew something was wrong, but no one would talk to me about that. I remember my uncle walking me out of the hospital and feeling really uncomfortable in that place. Like that's not a place like, hey, let's go have a party. It was a very uncomfortable, mopey feeling. And then I found out my grandfather passed away. And so seeing that, it shook me. It really, really shook me knowing that I would be in a coffin one day. And I didn't know this was what I was doing at the time, but I really coached myself through that process and said, okay, I'm going to die one day. So I have an option here. I can either live fully and embrace what I have, or I can slowly wait to get to the destination that I'm going to get to anyway, and not have lived the life that I wanted to live. And so I focused on, I'm going to live as much life as I can, and I don't know what's going to happen on the other side. I do hope that there is that spiritual part and that I continue to go on. But I only know what I know right now. And so I'm just going to take action on what I know right now. And then when I was 6, my mom remarried. And this guy has been with me from, when he came into my life to where we're at now.
Wow, what a gift. What a gift.
Yeah, he's been there for me. And I know you wanted to talk about my power of 6 and some of my principles. And some of those principles were from him, were from his own process. And he let me know that just because people who are supposed to be there can leave, people who don't necessarily have to be there can come into your life. And so now you get an option. You get an option and a choice of how you're going to show up to the world.
That's powerful. That is powerful, right? Because you're right. He didn't have to show up, and he didn't have to stay either. Right?
No.
That's really powerful. It's powerful because You're right. You could have taken this many, many ways, right? So you could have been self-destructive, and I don't know if you were, and we could talk about that, right?
Mhm.
I mean, that was a very adult thing to think, though, at your grandfather's, funeral. That's a very it's not at least that's not what I think kids think of at that
Mhm.
age, right? But that shows you that, our kids are actually a lot smarter than we think they are. I remember thinking like a little adult as well. And I
Yeah.
have to keep that in mind because I have grandchildren and, just to remember that they get impacted more than we think they do, you know?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I look at life's because is learning a series of things. Whereas awareness, like I had a heightened level of awareness at a very
Mm-hmm.
young age. Each kid's going to be different. So I
Mm-hmm.
never know how a kid's going to show up. But I did have a heightened level of awareness at a very young age. And my mom honestly didn't even know that I was thinking some of the things I was
Right.
thinking
Right.
until I
Right.
brought it up to her. She's like, "You remember all of that?" And I'm like, "Yeah,
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? And those are like traumas too, right? When you're that age, that's a trauma in your life. And it
mhm,
does form how you see things. And at 5 years old, yes, you think like an adult, but you honestly don't know everything, right? So it forms a perception and an opinion of something that could serve you or maybe not serve you as
no,
get older. Now, did you ever have like that anger or rebellion streak in you with with dad leaving and stuff and grandpa leaving, because grandpa left too, right? I mean,
yeah,
left in a different way, but he also left, and you could have easily taken that like everybody leaves here,
yeah, yeah."
yeah.
Um, I was always very kind, so the kindness never really left me. Now, I wouldn't call it rebellion towards the man I called dad,
Hmm.
but I didn't call him dad right off the out of the gate.
Of
You
course.
know,
Hmm.
like it was something I didn't feel comfortable with doing, something that I didn't feel comfortable with saying. Uh, but he let me do it on my time,
Hmm.
on my terms.
Hmm.
And that's what I respected and appreciated about him. Having that heightened level of awareness has served me very well on my journey, and it will continue to serve me well on my journey. I like to call myself the curious expert, and I just recently started calling myself that just because I know what my experiences are,
Right.
but the one thing that I don't know is anyone else's experiences. I
Right.
can't.
Right. You can't.
And
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And so being aware of that and having that curiosity, it's helped me a lot on my journey. It's helped me a lot. And I've actually grown into doing things even better.
Hmm.
Because one thing that I've noticed, I can see the black and white in things and I can also see the grays,
Hmm.
right? And taking the time to listen to a person when I was younger, I would try, if someone saw it black and white, I would try to explain the gray. And if someone saw it in gray, I would try and explain the black and white. And it would be met with resistance. Like it was
Right.
just like, I'm just trying to show you a different way. Going through my journey and understanding psychology and how our minds think and how we develop, I learned to flow through a process better
Hmm.
than I could when I was younger. And so I learned to ask the right questions to get them thinking differently
Right.
instead of just showing them something different.
Right. I mean, because we all have different maps, right? I mean, I just put out a quote the other day, like, you have your map in life, I have my map in life, and I'm grateful for the crossroads, right? I'm
Mhm.
grateful that we can meet at certain places because, we are so different that it's almost amazing that any two humans can agree on anything, right? That's
Yeah.
how different we all are. And so I know that you mentioned also, that you were a professional fighter, MMA, right?
Mhm.
So tell me how you got into that. Were you like just trying to beat people up or something? What's going on there? You said you were kind. What happened?
Yeah. You're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh. Um, so after my personal training journey, it was still during my personal training journey, I wanted a new challenge. I wanted something different. And I thought, what better challenge than fighting? What better challenge than that? And what's interesting, so people use the word kind, right? And say, how can you be kind and punch someone else in the face?
Right.
Right? And then I go, it's the ultimate form of kindness because it's two people signing a contract under rules and regulations. And so when a person can say like, are you fighting just to fight or are you fighting for the competition? You know, I fought for the competition, and I do want my message of love to always spread. You know, my message of love was always there and it always will be there. And people who had fought me, it was pretty funny. Some of them wanted to hate me when they lost. But it's just like, we're all on the same team.
Right. That's
So
right.
we're all on the same team. And all a fight is an opportunity to compete, if you see it as such. I've had people wanted to kill me
Right.
where we're fighting in the cage, and that's
Right.
okay because they get the option to see it the way that they want to see it. But what I love so much about it was a true professional fighter is just what it states, professional and fighter. It's the professional needs to maintain professionalism when they're fighting. I love it because the fighter's very primal. You know, it's our most primal state. So we get to be a professional in our primal state. And there's nothing more powerful than that to me.
Right. Right. That must have been a fun career. Did you enjoy that?
Oh, I enjoyed every moment of it. And there were times where I was terrified, where I was scared, where I'm walking towards the cage like, I can't believe I'm doing this right now. Why am I doing this? Oh, crap. They closed the cage. What is wrong with me?
Right. Right. That is so refreshing to hear, right? Because it talks a lot about your humanity, right? And the fact that even though you're walking in what you love and in your calling, and that's what you were, meant to do at that time, that there's still moments of fear and there's still moments of being afraid of what the next step is or who you're stepping in the ring with, right? And I think that all of us, as we're growing and going through our whole life and our careers and our switching of careers or whatever, it's the same fear, right, Clifford? It's like walking up to that new stage that you're going to talk to, or the new client that's going to be on your call next, your new podcast episode, whatever it is. There is a sense of anxiety, a little bit, and a little bit of nervousness, a little bit of fear that happens, but the cage is going to close, right? And it's game time, right?
Yeah.
It's game time. This must be like a whole different type of ring experience or fight, just to go with the same analogy for you, right? Stepping into now coaching people. And so now you're coaching people, you said mind, body, and spirit. Right. So I want you to break that down for me. How is it that you are, went from a professional fighter, you retired, right? You retired?
Yeah.
Okay. You retired and now you are helping people with their mind, their body, and spirit, which I admire. I admire that you did that you're switching a career like that and you're taking all of your life experiences and using that to help someone else. And that is what I love. I live for that, So I want you to break that down for me. How is it that you are helping people in those areas?
Yeah. So it was interesting because it was an easy transition. I'm lying. Like, I don't think there's ever such a thing as an easy transition. You go through the process and you take your bumps and you learn along the way.
Right.
I ended up finding a mentor who helped me in my process. And she really showed me things that I didn't know because I was always coaching. I was coaching even as a personal trainer. What all a coach is a curious leader. The more I see it, it's like, that's what they do. They're curious at what they do and they know how to lead, and you can't lead others until you learn to lead yourself. The more you can lead yourself, because you'll feel like a fake. At least that's my perspective. Like you would feel like a fake if you can't lead yourself. How can you tell others what to do?
Right.
How can you take others to the dark place if you've never been to the dark place? And so going through that process, I loved it. I loved it because I learned more about me and how I show up to the world. I've never been afraid to look into the darkness, and awesome. You learn so much when you look into it. And a lot of people, they want to look away from that thing. But when you look into it, you learn layers about you. And when you learn those layers, the world starts opening up for you.
That's good. That's good. So how do you guide people through that process? Because, you also have a lot of benefits to what you've done in your life, right? Because
Mhm.
being a coach, you have to be disciplined and you have to be willing to step out.
Yeah.
Being a fighter, you got to have that mindset. You got to put that mind on even while you're walking up to the cage or in the cage, right? Because it's on, right? It's not like the other guy's just going to look at you and say, "Oh, you're having a bad day, Clifford." No problem. He's not going to say
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
So, so, um, so I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, how do you then get someone like, I know is it, you said it was an easy transition. I know you're being funny, but how do you
Mhm.
get your clients to then, help them with their fighting their mind, their mental battles, their body, their spirit? When you say mind, body, and spirit, are you
Mhm.
doing mindset work and physical fitness work or something like that and spiritual work? Like, what do you mean by mind, body, and spirit?
I love that question. So I go in a very holistic approach.
Okay.
Um, when one area starts getting filled, the other areas will naturally fill. And so I'll give an example with as a personal trainer, right? It's figuring out which piece helps the other pieces move.
Mm,
Like, is it if they start getting physical, they tend to want to eat better. And if they're eating better, they're feeling better.
mm-hmm.
So it creates a cycle for them. And so I really need to figure out, okay, what's that sticking point
I
for
see.
them?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's customizable. Just how you say everyone has a different roadmap, everyone's roadmap's different.
Right.
Now, there are generalizations,
Mm-hmm.
whether is it a mental block? Is it a
Mm,
physical block? Is it a spiritual block?
right.
Are they physically fit and they're just not feeling feel something's missing? Do they have the mindset to believe that they can do anything, but they physically don't do it? And when you figure those out and let them know the only person who can do it is them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And too often we try and pay someone to give us the guide and the answer,
Right.
and they're nothing more than a guide.
Right.
All I help is with self-actualization, really looking within yourself and saying, like, wait a minute, is this really what I want?
Right. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. How are you finding that process for you? Are you enjoying that? Are you finding challenges, with taking people to that next, step in their lives, or, how is that going for you?
So the only challenge that I had when I first started was they tell you to niche down as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur.
Yeah, they do. Niche,
And I
niche,
just,
niche.
yeah, I couldn't figure out, like, what in the are they talking?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm over here like, let me try this. Let me try
I
this
know
one. Okay,
that's
I'll try this
right.
one.
I
Yeah.
know that's right.
And then I realized, holy crap, like, Cliff, just be Cliff. I almost had to take myself through my own process.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
so my process is know what your core values are,
Right.
stick by your core values, and the people who belong with you are going to be around you. And then I
Right.
figured out what my niche was by
Right.
doing it that way. Like, it's just like my niche is, all right, I deal with high achievers. They want to set the bar higher, or the people who are just at rock bottom. They're done. Anyone in between, they don't really mix well with me.
Okay. That's good to know though. That's really good to know, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I mean, that already gives you a guidance. Right.
Yes.
So you have one or the other. Let's not play games in the center. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a good thing. That's why they have you niche, right? Because then if not, you'll be selling cryptocurrency and you're like, that's not even what I wanted to do. I didn't even want to do crypto, So,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that's good. So what is your outcome, right? When you're taking somebody who's a high achiever, let's say, we'll just use a high achiever. What's the outcome of the process? Are you trying to work on just one aspect of them, or do you really want them to leave your program as a whole, right? You were talking about earlier, like the 6 core values. Is that right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Can you break those down for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So There's 6 pieces that I've seen consistently on my journey and the journeys that I've taken other people through, that if they stick with these, they just show up differently. Just a different person altogether. And so the first one is clarity, confidence, and commitment. You know, it's figuring out, okay, what is clarity to you? What are you really clear on, or what are you not clear on? What are you confident in? And sometimes people confuse confidence with competence, because we can get confident in doing something, but are we truly confident? Is it in our bones confident? Right. And in our bones confident, you need it, because life's going to change. It's just what it does. You know, I went from fighter and I was confident that I could be something else. And so that's what I chose to do. I've seen fighters stay in the game way longer than they should.
Right.
And it's because that's all they know, you know?
Right.
So when you're confident, like confident in self, confident in knowing that, okay, if I practice something long enough and take it intentionally enough, I can internalize it and become that thing. And then being committed, you know, commitment to your process. Commitment is scary, but it's so powerful for people too.
Necessary, I think.
Yeah. And so we look at commitment, and what's interesting, I always talk about an internal commitment, like internally commit. When I got married to my wife, I was already married to my wife before I married her.
Yeah, I get that.
Like we think like, hey, I'll sleep around now and do whatever I want to do. And then when I put the ring on, like, no, you weren't committed to the process at all. You're BSing yourself.
Yep.
You don't get to be a fighter on fight night without being a fighter those other days. I mean, you get the option.
To put it.
You get the option, but you're going to look like a fool.
Right. That's so good.
And so you got to be like, hey, are you committed to this or are you not? And that's why I do work with the high achievers, or the people on the bottom. They're going to be committed because they have nowhere else to go in their mind. They're like, I've already hit it.
Right.
So it's time to game up.
That's good. Yeah.
And then the second one is have a game plan. And what's funny, we actually make our game plans either too elaborate or we just don't have one at all.
Right.
And a game plan is like, look, what's one simple habit you can create? Just start with one, because it will build, and it will build on complexity.
Yeah.
But if me as a high level fighter were to go to an amateur and I told the amateur, hey, do all of these moves, learn them by tonight and we'll be good. No, you learn one thing at a time.
Yeah. You set them up to fail if you do that.
Yeah. You just chop at it. The third is passionate action. You know, and I talked about my core values. What do you stand for? What brings you to life? What activates you? What makes you want to execute? What gives you the drive to do things that seem kind of insane to other people? And what's cool is we all have a dream. So no one's insane. You just need to know what your dream is. When you know what your dream is, whatever actions you're taking makes sense to you. And that's what matters.
That's awesome. And
then the fourth is unshakable faith. Because as we know, the roller coaster has ups, downs, lefts, rights, and everything in between.
It does.
Yeah, I've never seen a roller coaster that just goes straight, like right down the middle, like, woo, there we go. It's having that.
Let me ask you about that. Let me ask you about unshakable. Let me ask you about unshakable faith.
Yeah.
When you say that, there's a couple of like words, right, that trigger the thought process here. So are you talking about unshakable faith in something, or are you talking about unshakable faith in the process? What do you mean by unshakable faith?
I love that. And my answer is whatever you need it to be.
Okay.
Wherever you start, wherever your starting point is, whether that's God, universe, it could be a plastic marker for all I care.
Okay.
Whatever helps you move forward.
Okay.
Because you're going to grow through the process, right? We just have to start. We got to get those anchors in.
I got you.
To get us moving forward. Yeah. Okay. And so it's an amazing question. I look at a lot of the clients that I've worked with, they had unshakable faith in me
Right.
until they built their own unshakable faith.
Right.
See, there's a finished product at
Right.
the end.
Mm-hmm.
And the finished product is, it's always been you. It's
Right.
always been you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, that's why everybody needs a coach or a mentor. I really believe that. You know, I
Yeah.
think it just pulls people out of themselves so they can actually actualize what, you know, what they are here to become, what they are here for. Right. Yeah.
100%.
Okay. That's
We
good.
all have our blind spots. Yeah, we
Oh
all have
yeah.
our blind spots. So
100%.
having people look at those and help point those out and start breaking them away,
That's right. Yep.
And then the fifth is responsibility, extreme responsibility. Now, one thing, this was what was really interesting to me. So my dad, right? So I have the biological and then I got my dad. You know,
Right.
my dad's been the one who's been there this far into my journey. And he taught me about responsibility really, really young. And so I really held on to it and I internalized it. It was interesting when I did create the Power of Six, I thought it was steps people needed to go through. And as I really started internalizing it, I realized it was a circle. You have to have all of them together. You have to have all of them in a unit. It's not, okay, I'm going to have this, and then I'm going to have this, and then I'm going to have this. Like, no, we're going towards mastery.
Yeah.
And when we go towards mastery, we're whole. We're full.
Right.
And I bring that up because extreme responsibility takes other pieces too. You can't take someone who's in victim mentality and just tell them to go take extreme responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. Because they're just going to be like, well, there's this and there's this and there's this problem, and there's this problem. It's like, okay, well, let's figure out where the structure's off and start working in that structure, because it's going, the other pieces are going to fill themselves in. And then you're going to just start stretching. And I knew something was missing because it was the 5 steps at first. So it was those 5 things. And I'm like, no, something's missing from it. Like something's missing. And then I had to think back to my journey again. What I do is more than just me. It always has been. You know, I come back to my 4, 5, and 6 years of age. There was an external process in that. There's both internal and external going on. And sometimes people look like it's only an internal battle, and it really isn't. It's internal and external. You know, you need to get both in place. But when both are in place.
Can you break that down for me? What do you mean by internal and external?
Absolutely. So if you are happy-go-lucky and your environment is a dangerous
that's good.
environment with a lot of people not allowing you the process to grow, it's almost like game over.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. But if you have a strong internal and a strong external, wow.
Yeah.
And I even go as far as looking back. So we talk about people who were like an Oprah Winfrey, for instance, and they talk about all the shitty shit she went through. Like this and this and this. It couldn't have been all shit. It couldn't have been.
Fair enough.
And so I say, wait a minute, let's really look this whole thing through. They're strong people. She's a super, super strong woman. But if you're getting beaten and broken to the point you have nothing, where your external environment is giving you no traction, no opportunity, absolutely nothing. I don't care how strong you are.
That's right.
It will destroy you.
That's good. Right.
And that's where I look at, I go, okay, these strong, successful people are strong and successful. But there was some inkling of hope somewhere. There was something to grab onto.
Right.
And when we can really look at that and say, okay, how do we do that for more and more of our society? Like, I believe she does do that. I believe many of our successes do that. Because they start realizing like, wait a minute, no, this wasn't, oh crap. Like there's something they want to give back.
Right. Right.
And that's where I look at my journey and go, I was just a perfect blend of things. You know, being an overweight kid, being the only black kid in an all white school, being all of these little things and having support. So I'd have both systems working for me, going
Right.
in and out from both systems until I became the thing that I became.
Got it.
And that's where the greatness within, like that's the sixth one, is the greatness within, standing so strong and so firm, not only for yourself, but for others. You know, being in a place where you're internally and externally working in a power system that people want to feed on and they want to be a part of.
That's good. That's good because all of it sounds like the responsibility falls back on you as the individual.
Yeah.
All of your 6 cores, right? It
Yeah.
all sounds like every one of them is going to touch a place about you, in you, through you. So it's that's good because that's a lot of internal work you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of just saying, okay, what you're going to do on step 1 is, write this speech. At the step 2, you're going to do this, but you're saying, nope, we're going to go ahead and reverse that, and we're going to look inside, and we're going to deal with some stuff, right? So that we
Yeah.
can get you to who you say is really you at the end, just a more improved and higher level you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Right. That's really great. And, it's something that, I think more and more people, Clifford, are going to be needing, with everything that's gone on in our world in this last year and a half, almost 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, people are getting hit pretty hard, mentally, especially. And, because the social media influence has grown as much as it has also caused a lot of people to feel limited in their belief system, limited in who they are, because they're looking at the next social media post that looks amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
that person has it all together and they're the guru of all things and they have the Lamborghini that's probably not theirs and, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And, and so what's happening is that people like you and me who are trying to do the work to help people get through things, to actually get to the best self of the best of their self,
Mm-hmm.
right, are also coming up against all of these things, right? All of these walls and these things that people have because they're struggling. They're
Mm-hmm.
struggling. Right.
Yeah.
So, Clifford, I think the work that we're doing, right, is super important. And especially when it comes to people's mental health and physical health, because think about the fact that a lot of people have been sitting at home. A lot of people have not gone working out and, all that kind of stuff. And that affects the brain. Like you said earlier, if you start to work on your
Mm-hmm.
body, you start to feel better mentally and so on and so forth. Right.
Yes.
So I like what you're doing, and I like that you're reaching, people at where they are, which is themselves, and you're really trying to help them through these 6 pillars, which is really fascinating. And I like that you are, stepping out in who you are, right? Because you were a fighter, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to show people how to fight for themselves.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
good for you for that. Good for you. And I'm glad we met. I'm glad you reached out. I'm really glad we met. And
Yes. Thank
and I
you.
want my audience to know a little bit more about you. So why don't you let us know where we can find you, like your social media handles, your website, all that great stuff.
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook at Clifford Starks. You can messenger me or even send me an email at
Mhm.
cliffordstarks1@gmail.com.
Okay.
I'm trying to memorize this right now. Team MBB or team at
Okay.
mbbcommunity.com. But you
Okay.
probably want to message me at cliffordstarks1 at
Okay.
gmail. That one
Now,
I know
what
for sure.
Clifford Starks, the number one, or
The
you,
number
or
one.
the number
The
one? Okay,
number
Clifford
one.
Starks, the number
Hmm.
one. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And I will make sure that my audience knows that. So,
Awesome.
Clifford, I'm so glad you spent this time in this space with me. I really appreciate you for being here with us.
Yeah, I
And I'm
appreciate you
glad.
taking the time.
Yeah,
Thank you. And I love no sugar added.
thank you.
That's super, super cool. That's another thing that I liked about fighting is you're getting in there and you're getting ugly and you're getting
Yeah,
to see how good you are or how good you're
yeah,
not. And then you
yeah,
can
yeah.
adjust.
Right? No, thank you. It's all right. That's okay. I won't join you in the cage, but I'll join you in this ring for sure. I will join you in the ring with fighting for people's mind, body, and spirit. I will join you in the ring for like making sure that people are moving forward in their lives, that we're impacting lives. I'll join you in that ring. That other ring, we ain't
Oh,
going
whatever ring works for you. Yeah, whatever ring you, because if you signed in for the other ring, like you don't have to sign in for that ring, but you can sign in for the podcast ring, the speaking ring, whatever, whichever one works.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have a podcast or no?
I do not.
Oh, you do now. Okay, good.
No.
I was going to say you didn't mention that. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So guys, I want to thank you guys so much for being here and listening to this. And, like Clifford said, that, we have to start with us, but you'll end up to discover that you are really just discovering you at the end, but at a higher level. So make sure that you get in contact with Clifford. I will make sure that all of his information is linked below in the show notes so that you don't miss anything and that you can get in contact with him. Go ahead and email him and go on to his social media handles and all of that and reach out, because I think that it would be worth your time and it will definitely be worth your knowledge to go ahead and have this conversation with Clifford. So I'm glad that he's here. I'm glad he shared this space and time with me. And I'm glad that you guys were here to listen. So don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Make sure you leave a review if you found value in this episode. And we thank you so much for being here. This is Neena Perez. This is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. Until next time. Make sure that you visit our website at Straight Talk, No Sugar Added, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes and Stitcher or anywhere you listen to your podcast or on YouTube, so you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about our show, that would be awesome too. If you like this show, you might want to check out our book as well. It's Hit Me With Your Best Shot, How I Overcame a Hard-Hitting Life. I am Neena Perez, and I am here for you. If you are looking for private coaching, make sure that you email me at hello@straighttalknosugaradded.com. Until next time.